Hello everyone, and welcome back to the channel. In this episode, I'm going to be discussing a few things that you're going to need to take with you in your first competition. Competition 101. Oh yeah. I had a very cool conversation with one of my students, and she thought this would be a great topic for a video. Thanks, Dusty Girl. My name is Jeff Mohr. I'm the Northwoods Carver, and thanks for seeing what I saw. Okay everyone, so this video is going to be about competing in a chainsaw competition, a chainsaw carving competition. For all of you that have competed, you have your experience and I have mine. But for those who haven't, I'm just going to break things down for you so that it will help you. I guarantee you, if you go in with the mindset that I'm about to describe, I think it'll help you. For the first part of my career, I never competed. I didn't even know there was such a thing. Probably 5 years in, that's when I started seeing, not news, but like, I guess it was like a news carving chip chats, I think it was called, or something like that, where I saw that there was competitions out on the West Coast and the Pacific Northwest as well. And I don't know, I thought it was pretty exciting, and the pieces that the guys were doing were really cool. I did see some pictures, and I'm like, wow, I'll never be able to get that far. Jeez Louise. But I stuck with it, and eventually I was able to carve some pretty cool stuff. But that being said, the carving competition did not suit me at that point. I was trying to just survive. Carving for people, carving for, just trying to get the most money I could for whatever little I knew. And that's kind of still what I do to this day. I just try to find something interesting about whatever it is that I'm doing, and then I just sit down on it and beat it to a froth until it looks like what I want. How about that? Yeah, that sounds good. All right, so what I would say, the most important thing about a chainsaw carving competitive mindset is, I think you have to remove the sport out of it. I know it looks like a sport or something from the outside, but what I do, and this is just me, I've competed a few times at the Alaska Cup and never really competed other than that, but I did. And I'm sure most people know that I do judge, or have judged, the U.S. Open and the Superior Invitational. And I just have noticed a lot of times when I was there doing my job, was everybody that competes is pretty much friends. Every once in a while there's a turd in a toilet bowl, but I mean, there's... That didn't sound right. How about I just say every once in a while there is a worm in the apple, and it's not very often, but other than that, everybody's really friendly and they're just trying to carve their best. And when you get to that level that these pros are on, these elite pros, there's something to that. They all are dear friends and they help each other. They all want everybody around them to perform at their best so that there's no excuses. And you'll see that. But the way I look at it, even if you're a guest carver, you have to go into it with a mindset of an on-site job. It's very similar, very, very, very similar. So you have to bring all your tools, your generator. Just be prepared to, or just imagine going into a job where there's no power, right? So you got to bring a little generator, maybe some fans, just, bring some stuff that you're going to need, like cooler full of water, all your stuff that you would normally take on an on-site job. Power extension cords, whatever your go-to chisels or saws, stuff to repair, whatever, just everything you're going to need on site, and extra chain, bars, whatever. Just bring it, because you never know what's going to happen. When carvers prepare, they either over prepare or they under prepare. It doesn't seem like there's ever a sweet spot. It seems like you're going to bring a box full of stuff that you're never going to use, or you're just not bringing enough and you got to borrow. And sometimes, that's just the way it is. I've had to do it. I've had to borrow from, maybe you loaded all your paint, but you forgot to check to make sure they spray. Do that. Make sure everything sprays out of your paint whatever. Make sure if you're using an airbrush, make sure it's cleaned and ready to go. All your saws should have a really nice edge on them, so you're not messing around with that. Bring things that are going to make your life easy, and prepare before you leave. When you're loading your tools up, make a checklist. And here's one thing that I found myself doing over the years. I would make a checklist, and then I'd go, do I really need this? Do I really need to take this second whatever, or this third whatever? Because there's too much, and then there's enough, or there's not enough. You just got to find out what that is, and there's really no way to find that out unless you go out and do it, and hopefully everything goes well. So I'm not reading any of this from a script. I'm just kind of speaking from the top of my head or whatever. One of my students asked me to make this video, so that's the only reason why I'm doing it. But it's really funny, the similarities. It's uncanny, actually, the similarities. Because after she asked me, I'm like, geez, what, there's nothing really that stands out to me about a competition, except for the fact that you have to treat it just like an on-site. You really got to move. You got to make hay while the sun shines. You need to make hay when the sun shines during a competition. But you need to also, all right, so let's talk about preparing. We talked a little bit about tools and making sure everything's good. Don't try anything new. So if you buy a tool and you're waiting to use it during a competition, that's probably not a good idea. If you buy a tool, make sure it functions and you are able to use that tool. Make sure that tool is functioning at its the way it's supposed to before you stick it in your toolbox or your truck. Also, I think it's a lot like an on-site job, because except for the food's better and the lodging is much nicer, and you get taken care of probably better than, well, maybe not, but you get taken care of pretty well when you go to a good competition. Also, there's camaraderie there, but we're talking about prep. So prep mentally, I would say, have a plan, but also be willing to adjust, make alterations. And I have never competed in a competition where you had to draw something up and then stick to that exact drawing. And I know a lot of guys will leave things, when it comes to drawing, leave it kind of vague. Instead of doing all this detail, they leave it kind of vague, and then they can get away with it. They can get away with little alterations or changes because the drawing was pretty vague. I don't condone it, being a judge or whatever, but hey, if it is what it is, and sometimes they get away with it, I guess. Sometimes they don't, but the closer you can come to that drawing, the better. Also, the thing that you're about to create, you have to be able to execute within a timely manner, and it has to have hopefully a lot of thought goes into it, and you have things kind of figured out for time. So if you're going to do something and you're going to time limit, which is like usually it's like for 2.5 days of full carving, and then there's quick carves and stuff. But I would say that make sure that whatever it is you're going to do, you can do it in that time frame, whatever it is, whether you're going to stay with the strength or whether you're going to try something new or something cool. You have to have the ability to do that in the time frame. It's all about time management. That's the biggest key. It doesn't matter how fancy you want to get or how simple it is. You have to be able to execute that, in its entirety in that time frame. Also, if you want to create something that is something outside your norm for your first comp, I think that might be a bit of a mistake. I would say your first competition, you go in there and try to stick with something that you're familiar with, especially if you don't have a big repertoire of things that you carve on the regular. Most carvers that try to compete or that want to compete want to experience it, and there is a level of ego that is involved in the whole thing of wanting to compete, like being out there. I want to be better, so I have to go and learn. And I think a competition is probably the best place to learn, unless you go to somebody who is actually a good teacher. I think if you leave everything to chance, I think there's going to be more failure than you would like. Let's just put it like that. I think if you tried to just wing it, I think very little do the people that wing it win a competition. You know, they have a set competition mindset, or they have a set competition piece that they want to do, and they kind of have to stick to the letter of the law, so to speak. So let's talk a little bit about the mindset of someone who wants to compete as to somebody who doesn't want to compete. So maybe we have someone who's very talented that doesn't want to put himself out there, or herself. And because it just, you know, there's this thing where in art, it's a sacred thing. You know, our carving is a sacred thing to some people. They approach it differently. They've got into the business differently. Everybody comes from a different angle. Every single one of us has a different backstory. I go over that in one of my videos called "How Much Do Chainsaw Carvers Make?" And it kind of goes over that. So we all come together from different walks of life, and the biggest thing from my perspective is the carving sacred, the creation, or are you just, you know, do you have a thick skin? That's the other one. So like for me, I did not have a thick skin because I carve from a different place. I mean, everybody does, right? So, but I felt like I needed to put everything out there and give it my all. And when I wasn't successful as I thought I was going to be, then it crushed me. And, you know, thankfully there's you know, the people that I was carving with in the competition were friendly, and they were very helpful. It is what it is. You know, I can't go back and change it, nor would I, because if I did, then things would have ended up a little differently. So you have to be able to accept the outcome, whether you think you want it or not, whether you believe in your heart of hearts, that you were ripped off, which most, you know, a lot of carvers think that. I'm at one point or another in their career, they think they got ripped off. Judging a competition is very difficult for all the reasons I already mentioned. Everybody there is a friend. Everybody there is amazing. Like, there's the only difference, and I will add this, the only difference between first place and third place are choices. Not so much ability or anything like that, because everybody at that level is knocked down, drag out, amazing, like very, very difficult. Between first and fifth even is just choices. It's just choices that people make, whether it be in a rush, or maybe they were forced, their hand was forced for whatever reason, and they got a bum log, or whatever. Maybe they had some equipment issues. It could be whatever, but a lot of times it's just choices on what they do, how they put, you know, what they put into the work, where, you know, the placement of things and the execution of things. It's all about choices, and the person that makes the best choices in the end doesn't always win, but they'll always place, it seems like. And I would say that the person that comes into a contest, especially a newbie, thinking they're going to win is ridiculous. Especially when there's, you know, professional competitors out there that they do it for a living. And you're swimming with sharks, okay? So, I mean, and they're all sharks, depending on what size they are and how hungry they are. It really, like I said, it all boils down to choices, and your mindset needs to be that. If I can just say this, I would say that just treat it like it's an on-site job. You have this amount of time to get it done, and you don't necessarily concern yourself with your neighbor. If they need help, of course, then you better go over there and help them. That's the way I look at it. it would be wrong to not help a neighbor or a fellow carver. You know, if you see they need help, drop what you're doing and go help them, because they're going to do it for you. That's just how it is. The camaraderie in the carving world is second to none. That I have found. The biggest, hottest names in the business will drop what they're doing and help you, you know, when your tent flies away, or, you know, these guys are there to help everybody. They want to situate everybody to get the best from you. So keep that in mind. Back when I was doing archery, the one thing that I did, there's a very big thing that I took from archery. The difference between competition and practice is you practice the mindset of competition. You have to put yourself under some pressure. The pressure that you feel in a competition is only coming from the inside of your brain. Between your two ears is the most difficult 4 inches, or the most difficult distance to navigate is the 4 inches between your ears, or 5 inches, whatever. And you'll find that when you compete in anything, everything else is just practice, you know. So if you're practicing in a sterile environment with perfect lighting, you know, in archery or whatever, you're going to get used to that. So if there's any change in environment, you're not going to be ready for it. So a lot of people that compete are used to this by now, and they can make adjustments. Where if you're just used to working in a studio or in your own backyard with nobody watching, it can have an effect on you, a negative effect. There's adrenaline, there's all kinds of stuff that really is going to come into play. And the best thing that I can think of is just have a sequence of things that you're going to do to make you comfortable. And you'll be amazed when you get started. Like, you'll get your whole, you know, underneath the tent or wherever you're going to be carving, you'll have all of your tools just like at home. You know, you'll have your lift, whatever you need, your scaffolding, everything's there. And hopefully you have some sort of hearing protection with music. And what you're going to find is, when after the cannon goes off or they blow the whistle or whatever it is they do, you will see that once the music starts to play and the saw's in your hand, put yourself there. Do it right now. Put yourself there, because I am. You see all these people milling around. There's other carvers everywhere, and you're just looking around like, holy crap, I can't believe I'm doing this. And then once you hear the bell or whatever, you put your headset on. You know, you've marked out where you want to make your cuts, and pretty much you just start your saw. Tunes are on, and you get this rush of adrenaline and all the emotion of, you know, everything that built up to this moment is happening to you right now. And it's like super powerful, and you get goosebumps all over your body, because the energy, the synergy between all the artists is palpable. It's powerful. It's meaningful. And you are there amongst the best, and it's fantastic. You might not think you're very good. You might think you're too, you know, you might think you're better than you are. Who knows? But we're going to find out. And this is the proving ground. And it's an amazing feeling. So there, once that, you know, once you get hit in the face, like they say, Mike Tyson said, everyone has a plan till they get punched in the mouth or punched in the face. So the whole punch in the face happens all the way right up until the time you put the saw to the wood and you're listening to the music and you just go for it. And it's a blast. And I don't care if it's an on-site job or if it's a competition or if you're just up in the barn, maybe, or in your yard or wherever you are. Maybe put yourself where I just asked you to go, and it'll prepare you for, you know, that type of situation. And it's a great place to be, and it's that adrenaline dump is amazing. And you're going to try to seek that, you know, coming in the future. It's like, that was the most amazing feeling ever. I was with these wonderful people, and I got to perform at my best, and I gave it my all, even though I didn't place or whatever. I feel proud because I did my best, and that was the best piece I ever carved or whatever. So keep that in mind. Keep that in mind as you go forward, and you know, you'll be able to decide for yourself if competition is for you. adrenaline is adrenaline, and it doesn't matter if you're being chased by a German Shepherd, or if you're, about to wreck a car, or, just before the accident, you get that blast of energy. Or if you're going to carve in a big giant competition with all these world-renowned carvers, it's all the same. Adrenaline comes in, and your imagination takes off, and it's a wonderful thing. So one of the biggest setbacks, I think, is ego. And ego will either build you, it'll take you to where you want to go sometimes, but it'll also burn you down and make you look horrible, make you feel worse, and make everybody around you tense, and it's not a good situation. So I'm going to read this little thing, and it has to do with a healthy ego. And you need one if you're going to compete. Let's just put it that way. If not, you are going to have a not so nice experience, and you won't be able to appreciate it the way you need to be appreciating it, being a part of something. Because once you compete, you are a part of something bigger than yourself, and you allow the other characters around you to compete at their highest level as well. So this is a little article. It says, while often seen negatively, a healthy ego can be a powerful tool in competitive settings. However, it's crucial to understand the difference between a healthy ego and detrimental arrogance. How a healthy ego can benefit you in a competition. Motivation. A strong sense of self can fuel your drive to excel, setting ambitious goals and pushing you to your limits. Confidence. A healthy ego is linked to self-assurance and belief in your abilities, allowing you to perform under pressure and stay focused during critical moments. Resilience. A robust sense of self enables you to bounce back from setbacks and challenges, providing the mental toughness needed to persevere. Leadership. Confidence and a self-assurance stemming from a healthy ego can contribute to strong leadership qualities. Motivation for excellence. Ego can be a driver to set higher goals and consistently improve, potentially turning good carvers into great ones, avoiding the pitfalls of an unchecked ego. Arrogance and detachment. An affiliated ego can lead to arrogance, making it difficult to collaborate and learn from others. Resistance to feedback. Ego can blind you to your weakness and make you resistant to constructive criticism. Overconfidence. An inflated ego can lead to underestimating opponents and overestimating your own abilities, potentially causing unexpected losses. Poor sportsmanship. Ego-driven carvers may exhibit poor sportsmanship, harming the competitive environment. Conflicts and relationships. An inflated ego can strain relationships with other carvers and other people surrounding you during that event. Maintaining a healthy ego. Balance with humility. Recognize strengths without becoming arrogant and remain open to learning and growth. Redefine winning. Shift the focus from external validation like rankings and praise to intrinsic goals such as personal growth and effort. Be receptive to feedback from mentors and fellow carvers, viewing it as an opportunity for improvement. Self-reflection. Honestly assess strengths and weakness to understand yourself better and manage your ego. In summary, ego in competition is a double-edged sword. While a healthy ego can be a powerful motivator and a confidence booster, an unchecked ego can become a significant obstacle to success and personal growth. Find the right balance between self-belief and humility is a key. Removing the ego uncovers humility, which allows behavior and reactions to stem from a sense of purpose, not emotions. Okay, so all that being said, imagine this just for a second, imagine your competition goals, and your all of this is a journey. It's not the end of it. It's not the final call. It's not, none of this is. Everything happens in these little cellular moments across your lifespan. And it's just one little blip. And you have to just take that in consideration. We're all here to try to do our best, but you cannot allow your insecurities to win the day. Just know that there will be another competition, and the clock ticks slower afterwards between competitions, so you can prepare for the next one. Better yet, just prepare to be a better carver, and then you'll automatically do better, right, on the next one. So let's just wrap this up. So we got, treat it like it's an on-site job, right? Treat all these competitions like an on-site job. Do the best you can in that short window of time. Get paid and go home. Look at it like that, and then in the meantime, you can enjoy some friends and potentially some family and hang out. You know what? And a lot of times those friends will become your family, and it's a wonderful experience. Well, everyone, that's it for this episode of the whatever this is on my channel, and I'm glad you tuned in. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Smash that notification bell, and I will see you on the next one.